Summer's Games Fest was interesting because there was actually a lot of good announcements this time around. And I'm not just talking about updates to games that we already know or teasers to, games that will be showcased at a later date. I'm talking about actual good announcements for new games or new updates coming to, some of the best games that have released in recent years. Now, granted, not all announcements quite stuck the landing like they thought they would, but there were also some pleasant surprises as well, which probably makes it one of the strongest Summer Game Fests in recent history. So here are some of my highlights from my reaction to the Summer Game Fest 2025 showcase. Alright, Summer Game Fest 2025. I feel like this is one of the more throwaway events of the year. It usually has a lot of teasers for games that we already know about, and they usually say like, oh, find out at a later event or in a different showcase, right? It's usually for games that we either know about, and if there are any new games, it's usually just like announcements but no release dates. So I feel like this will be one of the stronger ones if we get a lot of new games that are announced and also a release date for one of those. Gameplay will also be a bonus as well. Show us what you got, Jeffy boy.
I love the energy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Summer Game Fest, a showcase to celebrate what's new and next in video games. Now,
it'll also be interesting to see how many games will actually get released by the end of this year, and how many will just get delayed to 2026. I feel like a lot of games withheld their release dates because of the whole GTA 6 dilemma. Now that that's been delayed to 2026, how many of those games that are announced here will actually get released in 2025?
To make it worth your while, we have a really fun show ahead. Over the next 2 hours, we're going to give you a whirlwind tour of dozens of games from studios big and small.
It's actually interesting, the past 6 months haven't actually been all that bad, to be honest. We've had a good variety of games, both indie and AAA. And the next 6 months will actually be pretty good, I reckon.
Gotta have some of those. Now, before we dive into the excitement, let's take a moment to recognize just how dynamic our industry has become. Here's a look at the top 10 selling new games on Steam.
Oh, okay.
So far in 2025 by units.
It's a good mix overall. We see some indie games here. We've got Repo and Schedule 1. I feel like those blew up because we had a lot of top creators and streamers playing those games. But some of these other games as well that also caught me by surprise. Got Elden Ring Night Rain as well, which is very surprising given how much of a mixed reception it got online. I'm also surprised we're seeing games like Split Fiction up there as well. Although now that I think about it, because it's from the same studio behind It Takes Two, and possibly The Friend Pass as well, that's probably why it's, so high up there. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Expedition 33, Oblivion Remastered, yep, those aren't really surprising at all, and Monster Hunter Wilds. I feel like 3 of those will probably be at the end of the Game Awards, probably. At least one of them will probably win Game of the Year as well. There's a very interesting lineup, to say the least.
2020, the challenge now is discovery.
I feel like the actual bigger problems, I think, that are dominating discussions right now is probably ownership, especially with the whole subscription service thing going on, and a lot of games now required to say, oh, you're actually purchasing a license rather than the actual game itself. More people shifting over to digital rather than physical copies. I feel a lot of people are more concerned about whether or not they'll be able to own the games that they actually buy, especially with increased prices as well. That's probably the second issue that a lot of people have with $80 games and all that. And I think the final one is probably privacy as well, since a lot of these games nowadays are requiring you to create an account, and a lot of these companies are notorious for being subjected to data leaks. So again, I think those are probably the bigger issues at play here, but that's probably a discussion for another day. Oh, here we go. Again, a lot of these shows usually just cover games that are already out there or are usually quite popular. I know there's been a big push for Star Wars content lately, and the whole fiasco has probably pushed a lot of people towards the whole Battlefront 3 movement that's been dominating online. This will probably be the closest thing that I'll ever get to that, to be honest. But again, the whole Star Wars season was very interesting, to say the least, with the whole AI Darth Vader, but let's see what this is all about. Are we going to be fighting on the Death Star, it looks like? Be very interesting. Oh, we're going to go at space battles as well. How about that? Again, like, this is to be expected, right? A lot of the more AAA, dominant games that are out there updates on those rather than getting new games. I hope this isn't what the whole showcase is about.
Game creator who is set to release his latest project in just
here we go. Yep, let me guess. Also, the best mind in recent times, one of the creative visionaries behind one of the most iconic franchises as well.
The great Mr. Hideo Kojima!
Yep. I shouldn't be surprised, to be honest. I mean, Death Stranding really is just around the corner. Aw, look at that. See, he's not just a bigger fan. They are good friends, after all.
Mr. Kojima, here we are. The world tour begins at Summer Game Fest. It's great to have you here. We are so excited for DS2.
I'm probably of the mindset from a lot of people that didn't really enjoy the original Death Stranding. I think it's just because the gameplay wasn't quite engaging enough. You didn't really have a lot to do. Again, I don't doubt stuff like the story or the graphics. We've seen a lot of that and it looks really good. But it seems like gameplay, from all the trailers that we've seen so far, there's going to be a lot of, you know, more combat encounters, more stuff to do, basically. So hopefully this game will end up having a bit more universal praise rather than being so divisive like the previous game.
Let's take a look at this.
Did they just cut off Hideo Kojima? Oh my days, what a quirky personality. I suppose you have to be that kind of person in order to create some of the best games. Didn't he also fart at the Game Awards as well? Oh, Kojima. Isn't this the Solid Snake look-alike? But it isn't Solid Snake because of legal copyright reasons.
Welcome.
Again, showing stuff like cinematics, it's all good and all that, but again, people are going to be a lot more skeptical about the gameplay itself, because that was the biggest criticism of the previous Death Stranding. So I don't doubt the story's going to be great, but, you know, I'd love to have seen more gameplay this time around, instead of seeing some of the characters that we're going to play as. Again, that's some of the issues I have with some of these showcases. It's just a lot of, here's something you already know about the game that currently exists. They don't really show anything new. Like, what is this adding to the hype instead of just, you know, two characters that we've already seen in previous trailers already? Dare I say, this just feels like an excuse just to bring Hideo Kojima onto the stage and just remind you, hey, Death Stranding 2 is coming out.
I can't really say because there'll be spoilers.
Again, it's very close indeed. I feel like this is going to be the game that will define June, aside from stuff like June Awakening and stuff like that. But again, I'll be very interested to see how that game ends up panning out. Probably one of the more hyped games of the year.
Now it's time to hang on to the edge of tomorrow. Sonic Racing Cross Worlds.
Oh, okay. It feels like Sony's going after a lot of Nintendo genres, to be honest, or what they're known for. We had Astro Bot and the Mario platformers. Now we've got Sonic after the Mario Kart Racing, especially with Mario Kart World that just got released. What's next? We're going to have creators going after Mario Party. But let's see here. Again, I can't say I'm too well-versed in the Sonic universe, aside from, you know, the usual main characters, main cast. I can't say I recognize a lot of these characters, to be honest, except for Eggman, of course. Is the sort of cartoony racing genre all that popular? I can't think of any others aside from Mario Kart, you know, that really attract an audience like this. So it's an interesting direction for sure to take. What the heck? Hatsune Miku? What on earth is this? Oh my god, they're going after the Super... Oh my word, what is this? They're literally going after the Smash Melee's crossover kind of game. Oh my word. Iron Joker from Persona 5. Holy. Yeah, they're making this the Melee. They're going to have so many different crossover characters in this game. Wow, they are being quite blatant with this one. That's certainly taken me by surprise. You've certainly caught my attention now. I was ready to throw this game aside, but after that, wow. Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. How about that? That's quite the reveal.
Everyone here today.
It's not another collaboration, is it? On a different game? What IP we're talking about here? Or maybe a DLC? Oh my god, it's Minecraft. I literally cannot escape this genre, this title. Oh my word, it's everywhere. We're gonna have a Minecraft racetrack. How about that? They really are going after the Melee Bros sort of collaborations.
You gotta go craft.
Oh my god, the Sonic Jockey, how about that?
Black and white world of rubber hose animation with mouse PI for hire.
Oh, I've heard about this. This is that sort of traditional classic animation first-person shooter game, no? Very interesting. I think we've gotten a lot of games like that these past couple of years. We've had Bendy and the Ink Machine, we've had Cuphead, these sort of games that are trying to harken back to the traditional old-style animations. I kind of wish the whole game was sort of 2D animated, though. I suppose that would be very difficult to achieve, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, so many games nowadays just lack this sort of charm and personality. Troy Baker. Very interesting. But yeah, you usually find that a lot of these new games look very generic. They either look like a modern shooter or look like sci-fi shooter, right? But this one looks very unique. Jon Snow. He stands no chance. You know how powerful this guy is? A real-time strategy game. That'd be interesting.
You may think you know how the game
Is it going to be like Civilization, or is it going to be like Total War, I wonder, when they say real-time strategy?
is not the game you know.
How closely is it going to try and follow the seasons? So hopefully it doesn't try to follow the same ending that had. Holy. But again, strategy games are a weird one, right? It's very hard to try and get right for the audience that are really interested in those types of games. Oh my days, what on earth? He's just dead. They just killed him off. The main guy of the series. What on earth? So is this going to be like a sort of alternate timeline, alternate ending? Very interesting too. Oh, how about that? Okay, very interesting. So you can sort of do like multiple endings almost, depending on the faction you choose. So you could potentially play as the bad guys and win. Game of Thrones War for Westeros. A real-time strategy game coming 2026 again. But that's very interesting, a Game of Thrones game. Didn't expect that.
Billion suns in the known universe. So why do we deny other intelligent beings?
What is this? Is this Fallout?
Said, if they were out there, they would have visited Earth.
And I'm not sure I recognize it quite yet. Oh my god, it's Atomic Heart. They made another game.
The era of atomic.
I'm so surprised actually. I thought Atomic Heart wasn't really all that well received. I thought it didn't exactly do well. I'm surprised it actually got greenlit for a sequel. That's very interesting to see. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people didn't exactly vibe too much with the whole Atomic Heart game, except for the Robot Sisters. So it's very interesting to see that they've actually given it another chance with a sequel now. I just don't think a lot of people liked Atomic Heart because the story wasn't all that interesting. And the gameplay, the moment-to-moment combat wasn't really that engaging. Or all that interesting. Looks like they're trying to add a bit more variety this time around, so hopefully this one ends up being a little bit more interesting. Again, they're embracing the whole quirkiness a bit more this time around. I mean, they've been doing it since the DLC, but there we are. No release date, very interesting.
This time, there's a greater emphasis on RPG elements.
Yeah, so that's what they're going for. Again, it felt like a very shallow and linear sort of first-person shooter, so very interesting to see that happening. Oh, this is that one game that was revealed during last year's Game Awards. What's it called? I think it's like, is it Onimusha or something like that? I saw there was a lot of buzz about this game online. A lot of interest. I think that it's been some time since the previous game, if I recall. But again, I think after Black Myth Wukong, there's been a lot of interest surrounding, you know, sort of Eastern games nowadays. A lot of people have been interested to see what kind of games outside of the Western world are being made, and whether or not any of them are being worthwhile. And after Black Myth Wukong, the answer is yes, actually. I say that like it's a surprising thing. It's not really. A lot of the best games have actually been made outside of the US and stuff like that. But again, after Black Myth Wukong, it's looking like Onimusha is going to be the next kind of game to fulfill that role. Onimusha, Way of the Sword, yeah. I know a lot of people are very excited about this game. Be interesting to see how this game, you know, pans out, if it'll actually live up to the hype. Yeah, definitely one of the highlight Eastern games that are on people's radar at the moment. 2026, again, another game releasing next year. That's a big pattern I'm noticing here.
Here's the exclusive new
Lies of P? Oh yeah, there we go. I haven't heard from this game in a while. Probably one of the better Souls-likes out there at the moment. Again, a lot of Souls-like have been trying to capture that magic over the years, and I feel like Lies of P is one of the few games that actually managed to, you know, capture that FromSoft essence in a way. These executions look really cool. And these boss fights look a lot of fun as well. Is that a dual boss fight? My word. And I think why a lot of these Souls-likes, you know, they either succeed or they don't, is due to difficulty. And Lies of P, you know, was almost as ruthless as the, you know, original Dark Souls trilogy and stuff like Elden Ring. So, Lies of P Overture. A new DLC available today? How about that? Oh my god, an actual change of pace for once. I was afraid it was going to be released in 2026.
Yes, right.
Oh wow.
Across all platforms to play.
Probably one of the better announcements we've gotten in this showcase so far. That is very, very cool.
Fee?
What's this one?
You're reading this, it means three things. Number one, you're killing it at the fest with your oodles of totally natural charisma. Debatable. B, I'm at your house playing long darts with the fam. And three, you're going to do me a solid and skip that Silk Song trailer.
Oh my word. Silk Song. That better be in this showcase. Oh my word.
Comma, Wade.
Wade? Oh my days, it's a Deadpool game. Oh my word. It's an actual Deadpool game. That's good because of the whole like Deadpool and Wolverine movie.
Handcrafted with
Oh my god, no way. It's not a VR game, is it? No! Why you gotta do this to me? It's not a... Oh my god, it's a VR game. Oh my god, why? Why have they done this? Why a VR game of all things? When was the last time we had a Deadpool game? Wasn't it like 2013 or something like that? Why can't we get like an actual like, you know, something like Borderlands or something like Just Cause or something like that? It's a normal game. Who's gonna play this on VR? Oh my word. I'm not sure about the voice either. I get that they're trying to go with the whole Ryan Reynolds thing, but if it sounds a bit flat, I won't lie.
Who got the lobotomy with fries?
Again, oh my word. We got a Deadpool game at last, and it's bloody VR. It's VR. Deadpool VR.
Spider-Man gets Insomniac, and I get this shit?
Exactly! Exactly! Insomniac is doing Wolverine and Spider-Man, and Deadpool gets a MetaQuest game. Oh my word. I have never been so hyped and so disappointed at the same time in the span of what, 2 minutes? Oh my word. I can't believe that. Okay, I mean it looks like a generic third-person action shooter to be honest, but... Oh, okay, never mind. That certainly caught my attention. Hitman, Agent 47. I feel like there's been a lot of collaborations with the Hitman series, but is Hitman 3 still popular? I don't really see a lot of discussions of it online. I know their content plan has usually been about doing all these assassination missions, but with collaborations with real-time celebrities. I think the last time I played it was with the whole Conor McGregor sort of thing. But, oh, look! First Light. Wasn't that was revealed back in the State of Play, if I recall correctly. And there we are, we got another assassination mission, it looks like. I recognize this map as one of the first ones from the first Hitman game, no? Is this... Yeah, it's Casino Royale. How about that? A new assassination mission, Le Chiffre from Casino Royale. I did enjoy playing Hitman back in the day though. Like, it was a very interesting game for what it was. Its content plan was a little bit strange though, to be honest. They tried to like spread it out across 3 games. I'm not sure how well that panned out for them. I mean, they're still doing it to this day, so clearly it wasn't, you know, as terrible as I thought it was.
We know our players waited a long time for 007 First Light. It's just around the corner, coming out next year.
It's coming very soon, but it's also next year, so at least 6 months. Oh my days.
Friend to join me here. As a matter of fact, he is here with us today.
That's right, everyone at Summer Game Fest, please welcome the great Mads Mikkelsen.
Oh, okay. Again, it wouldn't exactly be a Jeff Keighley showcase if they didn't bring in a bunch of celebrities to try and promote the game.
In a few hours. For only 30 days, and if you play it, you will unlock a unique reward in 007 First Light.
Amazing. All right. Well, Hakan Mods, thanks for joining us for Summer Game Fest. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Oh my god, he didn't exactly reveal a lot, did he? He basically just came into the showcase just to be like, oh, I'm in the game, by the way. I play this character. Go buy it. Didn't exactly reveal too much there. Imagine traveling to an event like this just to talk to 5 minutes just to be like, yeah, I'm in the game. Okay. I mean, this looks good. I'm noticing there's a lot of horror games sort of being revealed in this event. Didn't we just have Dying Light the Beast also revealed here? Is it really that popular of a genre? I feel like it's one of the more niche ones out there. I suppose you have stuff like Resident Evil out there as well. But again, we've had a lot of horror, gothic-centric games revealed this time around. I suppose that's probably going to be the big theme of this showcase. But again, I know this sounds a bit obvious to say, but a good horror game will be, you know, how scary it actually is. And I know that there's a lot of these sort of, you know, scripted scenes, but how much this will actually, you know, cause tension in the game, I think will depend on, you know, how good it is. He just kicked it. He just kicked the baby. What on earth? Holy smokes.
Poor little babies. All right, Mecha Break is one of 2025.
There's been a lot of good announcements so far. We've had a good mix of things. Of course, we've had our fair share of, you know, titles that I don't think anybody will really hear from again, to be honest. And we've also had a lot of titles that we already know about, but they're just saying, oh, here's a little bit more details about it, or find out in a later event. But we've had some good, you know, title announcements so far. We had the Lies of P Overture, we had more details surrounding Dying Light the Beast as well. Well, the thing about these events is that there's so many games released, but I feel like a lot of them, you know, you hardly ever hear from again, right? They usually don't really see the light of day. There's such a small selection of games that are actually announced here that actually end up breaking it big. I feel like Power World is a good example of that. I felt like a lot of people probably brushed that aside as a meme game, and then that blew up by the time it released, right? So how many of those games in here will end up having the same story will be interesting to see.
Now, with the help from our amazing community, we've built Splitgate 2. Why? Because I grew up playing Halo.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of playing the same Call of Duty every year. And I wish we could have Titanfall 3.
Oh my word. What's with all of these buzzwords he's sort of releasing out? Are we going to get Halo, Call of Duty, and Titanfall 3 in this game, however?
What if you could portal to entirely different worlds? So we
I know that's the main gimmick of this game. Again, I haven't really heard much from this game though, to be honest.
Splitgate Battle Royale.
Oh my word. Okay, interesting. A portaling Battle Royale game. Very interesting that they're going with Battle Royale nowadays, because it's sort of like a trend that people tried back in like 2018 to 2020. But you know, very few games ever actually managed to land the mark with that. And that's because I think a lot of people, you know, people who are interested in Battle Royales, they're mostly going to stick with the games that they've invested all their time into as well, and they've spent all their microtransactions on. Things like Apex Legends, Fortnite, Call of Duty Warzone. it's going to be a very tough sell to try and convince them to try another game. And I think where a lot of battle royales tend to trip up as well, I think, you know, how casual friendly it will be, how easy it is to get into the game, and how much of a, you know, skill difference there are between, you know, the newer players and those that have played this, you know, for some time. And again, that's a problem that a lot of battle royales face, but, you know, it would be depending on, you know, how complicated and how much, you know, skill is required to use some of the mechanics in this game. Because I feel like portaling is going to be really cool, but I feel like it's going to be, you know, something very annoying to play against, right? You sort of trying to, you know, land a kill on an enemy team, and then they somehow manage to, because of where they are or positioning, they manage to portal away and, you know, live to fight another day. I'm not sure how, you know, satisfying that will be for a lot of players, you know, to face against. You know, how that will translate to a battle royale scene. It's going to be very interesting to see, you know, how this will stack up compared to, you know, more the dominant sort of titles in this genre. But yeah, we've had a lot of, you know, good announcements so far. I feel like we've had a lot of horror games released so far in this showcase. We've had, you know, Dying Light, The Beast. We had Ill. We've had a lot of side-scroller beat-em-ups as well, like that Scott Pilgrim game and the Marvel game as well. A lot of games coming out next year, though. That's the big thing that I've noticed. Not too many games are releasing, you know, sometime today. We've had a couple of those games saying, like, oh, we're going to release today, like the Overture DLC for Lies of P. That was probably one of the bigger highlights so far from this showcase. But so far, I don't think it's been too bad. I'd actually say this is one of the stronger Summer Game Fests that we've seen so far. But again, I still can't believe they're doing the whole Resident Evil, like, teasers and all that. Like, are they actually going to, you know, showcase anything with that? Or is it just going to be a case of, oh, here's some deals that you're going to get? Or here's some collaborations. There's got to be something, right? They've been talking about it way too much.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
By the scale, scope, and ambition of this developer's
okay, here's the big one.
Many places
they always reserve it for the final reveal, right?
Honored that we get to share it with the world right
But what's the big game going to be? Are we going to get Silksong? Are we going to get GTA Trailer 3? Are we going to get Splinter Cell remake?
Sir.
This doesn't look like any of those things. Is that Raccoon City? Is this a new Resident Evil game? It is a new Resident Evil game. Resident Evil 9 Requiem. How about that? They did actually end up giving us a Resident Evil announcement. 2026. I liked Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, but I didn't quite like Resident Evil Village. It felt like that game was a little bit too much of an action game rather than a horror game. This one seems to be reverting more to 7's eeriness, based on everything we've seen so far in that. But it looks pretty cool. But overall, I think this was actually probably one of their stronger Summer Game Fest, actually. We've got a lot of good announcements. Yeah, we've had some, you know, throwaway titles that probably nobody will ever hear from again. But we've had a lot of, you know, major titles and major releases. Granted, they're all releasing next year in 2026. But there's a lot to be excited for, especially for this year as well. And 2026, there's more to play outside of GTA 6, it appears. You know, it was a fun time. It was a very good showcase, all things considered. So that was Summer's Game Fest 2025. Very interesting to say the least. And I've got some closing thoughts on the matter as well. I think some of the biggest highlights was probably the Overture DLC that was revealed for Lies of P, and especially that Resident Evil 9 Requiem announcement. We were teased about it like so many times throughout the trailer, right? Saying like, oh, are we going to get a new Resident Evil game? Only to get something like, oh, here's a discount on all pre-existing Resident Evil games, right? But it's actually, you know, it's good to see that they actually ended it on a high note, on a new game that isn't just, something that was already teased or leaked about. But as for Summer Games Fest 2025, I think this is probably one of the stronger showcases that we've had in recent years. Usually a lot of the bigger announcements are reserved for near the end of the year for the Game Awards, which is arguably the bigger and more well-known event, and where we see a lot of the, more major announcements. But this time around, there was no shortage of, major notable titles this time around. Now that Summer Games Fest is over, there's still a couple of events to look forward to for the rest of the year, right? We have the Xbox Showcase, we've got Gamescom coming up, which is going to feature some of the games that were revealed in Summer's Game Fest, and of course we have the Game Awards at the end of the year in December. Summer's Games Fest has shown that 2025 is going to be a stacked year for gaming, and that we've got plenty to look forward to in 2026.